On average, 30 million passengers cruise globally, on cruise ships which have evolved from just a mode of transport.
The ship itself has become the destination.
And this is the largest of them all, the Symphony of the Seas. Constructed in 2018, costing over £1 billion, she weighs 228,000 tons.
It's just a wow factor when you walk on board, second to none.
I think it's a wow, even just driving up to it.
The ship is 1,188 feet in length, longer than the Shard on its side. Its 18 decks stand at 238 feet in height, making it taller than Nelson's Column. With 6 engines, each the size of a double-decker bus, totaling 128,600 horsepower.
It's a marvel of technical engineering.
They even constructed a park that contains 20,700 tropical plants and 52 trees.
I didn't think you need a gardener on a cruise ship.
This epic piece of engineering carries 2,200 crew members who look after a maximum of 6,680 guests, accommodated in 2,759 staterooms.
Everything will be picture perfect. That's what we strive for.
Below deck, the kitchens produce over 40,000 meals per day and has a shopping bill just under $1 million per week, catering for guests that can seat 5,200 guests in one sitting. This is a behind-the-scenes look at the people who keep this sailing city afloat.
Missing one, guys, one unaccounted.
We cannot leave 6,300 waiting for them.
Welcome aboard the £1 billion cruise. Symphony of the Seas is the world's largest cruise ship. And today, it's docked in the cruise ship capital of the world, Miami, Florida. With a specially built port for a vessel this size, the ship's 2,200 crew are preparing for a week-long luxury Caribbean cruise. Within a few hours, this week's cruise with potentially 6,680 guests will set sail, and all passengers will be welcomed, entertained, and every need taken care of for their perfect holiday. It's one of the biggest operations out at sea, and with the ship's £1 billion price tag, expectations are high for this next 7-day cruise. Orchestrating the smooth running of the world's largest cruise ship is hotel director Fernando.
Need to line them up nicely. I think me maybe here they're even a little bit too far, no? Let's tuck in a little bit the cables over there on the corners, you know, behind the curtain and stuff. There's no other operation in the world, no other hotel, no other resort that will check out 6,600 guests in one morning, and a few hours later we'll have again 6,600 new people, rooms 100% clean and hotel 100% pristine, that make you feel like you're the first person ever on board.
With 2,759 rooms on board this luxury ship, the 165 room attendants have just a few hours to give each room the VIP treatment before the new guests arrive. To service this many rooms, the ship has a stock of 26,000 bath towels, 30,000 hand towels, and 20,000 bath mats. But with many passengers looking for high-end luxury, this £1 billion vessel has been fitted with 188 VIP suites. Spread over 2 floors, the most exclusive accommodation on board is the Royal Loft Suite. This lavish suite sleeps 6 guests, has a dining area, and its very own grand piano. Costing £75,000 for a 7-night cruise, included in the accommodation is a magical added extra, a personal concierge known as a royal genie.
Everything will be picture perfect. That's what we strive for.
It could have been called a butler or assistant or a personal concierge, I guess. A party planner, a private shopper. We're pretty much everything. Hello, Reno.
And being a genie, he always has a wish from his special guests.
We might have requests for a private yacht, a helicopter, and then, of course, some requests that I should probably not mention.
All right, Seven.
This morning, Royal Genie Reno is preparing the ultimate family suite, which spans over 2 decks and has its very own slide.
Over here, we're going to have the family name on the blackboard to say welcome. I'm not sure who's more stressful, who's a suite attendant who's got to get everything ready in such a short space of time, or for me that's worried that he does it in such a short space of time. So yes, I think it's a challenging time for us. There's still much to do here, so I'm going to leave the guys to do their job, and we're gonna get out of their way.
Even with magical genie powers, we sometimes just make it in time. Of course, the guest never knows that.
Before anyone sets foot aboard, a huge operation is underway, the resupplying of the ship's provisions. This billion-pound floating holiday resort has a shopping bill of just under $1 million per week. Dock Superintendent Marcos is in charge of coordinating today's task. But even he's still amazed when the ship makes its weekly visit.
The first time I saw the Symphony of the Seas pull into the dock, I lifted my head up and I'm saying, wow. And after minutes of looking at it, I realized my neck was cricked because I wasn't so used to looking so high up at a ship, but it really is breathtaking.
And the scales of today's deliveries will take anyone's breath away.
We have about 30 to 35 trucks that are coming through the west gate here, and they carry anywhere between 100 and 180 pallets.
Marcos is supplying the vessel with an estimated 400 tons of weekly provisions.
You do 500 to 600 pallets of provision alone, and another 100 to 200 pallets of hotel and other departments as well.
In charge of the shopping list for the next 7 days.
Tell me, do we have any special customer tonight?
Is food and beverage manager Emmanuel.
We have to find a way to shop once every 7 days. If I forgot to buy some meat, for example, I don't have the opportunity to go now shopping to send somebody and say, hey, go and get me like 50 kg of whatever, you know? So the planning is really, really paramount. We consume 340 metric tons a week of fresh produce. Chicken, all together, we're around 25,000 pounds. 11,000 pounds of watermelon every cruise. It's very popular.
This billion-pound cruise ship has been designed to hold the staggering amount of provisions it needs. And with 20 gigantic storerooms, the Symphony's freezer space is the size of 5 average-sized bungalows.
Obviously, being the biggest ship in the world, we also have the biggest freezers in the world. So on this ship, we have 1,350 square meters of refrigerated space. All right, so now we're going to have a look into the, my favorite place, and that's the beer and wine fridge. So beer and wine and soda, we never really go empty because consumption varies from cruise to cruise. Beer is one of those things, it's very complicated to buy in the islands where we're going, so we don't want to run out. But 25,000 bottles of beer every week we go through. So demographic play a huge part, and cruising in Europe, if we have a lot of Scandinavians and British guests, we definitely go through more of our alcoholic beverages. Vodka is probably one of the most popular in any part of the world, and obviously once we have our British numbers go up, then it's gin, a lot of gin, and I think Brits are the only ones in the world drinking Pimm's, which we carry as well. So.
Fully stocked and looking immaculate, the world's largest cruise ship is ready to let a maximum of 6,680 guests on board for the start of their luxury holiday.
It's just a wow factor when you walk on board, second to none.
I think it's a wow, even just driving up to it. Every time, it's still like, wow.
Initially, guests are greeted by the ship's centerpiece, the promenade, which spans 2 decks and is home to shops, restaurants, and bars. One of them is a feat of engineering in its own right, the Rising Tide, the cruise ship world's first elevating bar.
You wouldn't actually realize it was on a ship. It could be a world-class hotel. Being on a ship just adds to it.
When designing a billion-pound cruise ship, aside from the multi-million-pound activities and entertainment, one of the major factors for consideration is the flow of human traffic. And to help, this billion-pound cruise ship has the tallest slide at sea, which plummets you 10 stories down at 9 miles per hour. For those that want a more leisurely pace, the ship also has a 2-lane running track. But for a more breathtaking route, there's the unexpected oasis in the heart of the ship's structure, Central Park. And exploring this man-made garden for the first time is the Fairfield Roy family.
It's a small village just outside Dunfermline, which is about 20 minutes north of Edinburgh. So quite a small place, much smaller than the amount of people on this ship.
The park is home to 20,700 plants, specifically selected to survive all weathers out at sea.
No, it's absolutely beautiful. It's lovely. I didn't think you needed a gardener on a cruise ship, but I presume you must.
Landscape specialist Laszlo has been gardening on board cruise ships for 10 years. And in that time, he's developed an encyclopedic knowledge about which plants will survive the sea's salty conditions. And even though the ship has been specially engineered, the unique environment in Central Park allows Mother Nature to add her own special touches.
These orchids on the trees, I just installed this one 2 days ago. And they're already attached to the tree. If you can tell, these roots are grabbing onto the tree. And once an orchid gets established on a tree, you can have it for life. So this is something that's one of the most popular thing for the guests in the park. Just have to secure myself.
As well as plants on the ground, the garden has a vertical dimension.
All right, let's do it.
2 15-meter living walls which are home to over 10,200 plants.
It is our focal point, and we have to make sure it's 100% perfect.
As well as the monthly maintenance Laszlo does in his cherry picker, the living wall is fed and watered by 25 irrigation pipes.
Anything that's looking bad, I just try to remove, just make it look pretty, basically.
The world's largest cruise ship is finally ready to depart from Miami. And with up to 6,680 guests settling in for their 7-night stay, the man at the helm is starting its engines.
I am the captain on board the Symphony of the Seas, the largest cruise ship in the world. I think I'm probably the smallest captain in the world. So yes, I'm very honored to be chosen. It wasn't the first time I was appointed captain of the largest cruise ship in the world. It's just the ships keep getting bigger. That's all.
Anchor watch only on the bow, yes.
Port 15.
Despite the ship being the largest in the world, size doesn't matter when it comes to steering.
Well, you don't need to have a big steering wheel on ships anymore because it's all electro-hydraulic controllers. Whereas in the old days, there'd be a big wheel because it had to turn chains and, blocks and pulleys, and that's why you had to have a little bit of extra leverage. We always make it safely in and out of port.
The billion-pound cruise ship has set sail and is now on its way to its first port of call. It's a new day on the most expensive and largest cruise ship ever built, currently on a 7-day cruise of the Caribbean. The ship, the size of 4 football pitches, will face many challenges over the few days. And even though this massive vessel is fitted with one of the most technically advanced bridges, the first of its struggles will be docking into the small port of Roatan.
Pilot boat approaching. Pilot boat is approaching. Alongside? Pilot boat's alongside. Every port, we have a port pilot that is an expert in the port. They know the different currents, what wind conditions. Of course, there's language barriers as well, so it's very important to have them on board. You're gonna be a star on TV in the UK.
Oh, man.
Say hi to your fans in London.
With the port pilot on board, the world's largest cruise ship can dock at its first port of call, the island of Roatan, Honduras.
Clear to proceed.
Yep, ready to proceed.
Very good. A lot of the ports are quite narrow, and this is a very large ship, so there's very little room for error. We have to be sure we're right on track. And the equipment that we have on board the ship is great for that, because it can tell us within meters how far on or off the track we are.
The captain and his staff also have the use of electronic and digital navigation charts, as well as a series of sensors located around the body of the vessel, giving accurate accounts of the ship's position and surroundings.
The bow thruster, it's very sensitive. A slight movement one way or the other with my fingers controls enormous power.
Similar to propellers, the bow thrusters at the front of the ship help maneuver the vessel with horsepower equivalent to 28 Ferraris. They're able to reach 3 to 4 knots and help the ship move on its side. Accompanied by local line handlers, this allows a precise and safe maneuver into dock.
Looking good.
With the world's largest cruise ship gliding into port, 8 decks down in the galley, Chef Alan is busy overseeing breakfast for the maximum capacity of 6,680 guests, so they don't go hungry on their first day in port.
I'm Alan Gentile, I'm from Venezuela. I'm development chef of the fleet, the world's largest operation of food and beverage on the seas right now. How are you, senor? Das, how we are doing? Yeah? Pancakes, breakfast, super. So we had so many kitchens here that everything is completely different. For example, we had 30, yeah. 28, 30, more or less. There is so many kitchens that you get so confused.
And those 30 kitchens serve 23 dining areas.
He's making all the omelets. When they start to almost finish, he starts to make all the production here, we start to serve it outside to give omelet fresh in big quantities and that the guests can have it faster.
And with 60,000 eggs cracked each week, that's a lot of omelettes for Alan to oversee.
But it's really full of pressure and stress, and we are making happen food for 6,400 in the same time. But it's really crazy, but it's amazing.
Of the 23 dining venues, consisting of 5,189 seats, the most popular place for breakfast is the main dining restaurant, which has a centerpiece chandelier that spans over 3 decks.
One of the more important for everybody always is the buffet. Super big buffet of breakfast, and you see crispy bacon and stations of omelettes and stations of egg. That is fantastic. In the kitchen, we had the 254 cooks plus 100 utilities. That is 354 is our team that is run without stop.
Breakfast may be in full swing, but that's not stopping Alan's team from preparing today's lunch and dinner. And with 30,000 potatoes consumed across the week, there is a designated cook just for that vegetable.
Okay, he had one cook named Potato Man. He only peel potatoes, drink potatoes, chop potatoes, mash potatoes, like that, just potatoes the whole day. That, for example, Bacon Man at night. Only bacon, 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 bacon until it's crispy. Then, when he finished that production, he starts to serve all the breakfast. Do you imagine the quantity of bacon crispy that we can serve in one morning?
170,000 slices of bacon are cooked every week, meaning Alan and his team are cooking more than 24,000 rashers of bacon each morning in preparation for breakfast. Roatan is the ship's first port of call, and with up to 14 cruise ships docking each week, more than 1 million passengers pass through the port each year. While Symphony of the Sea's passengers are enjoying their time onshore, the entertainment team on board are rehearsing for high-end spectacular shows that audiences would expect on a ship built the world's most expensive and largest. In the 1,100-seater Royal Theater, tests are taking place with a replica 1909 Wright Brothers plane. With an advanced rigging system attached to various points on the ship's solid metal infrastructure, this replica plane gets flown over the audience. Down in Deck 5, Olympic-level skaters are preparing on an 11,411 square foot ice rink, the largest out at sea. But at the stern of the ship, there is a jaw-dropping venue exposed to all the elements. The 700-seater open-air Aqua Theater, And today, a brand new team of performers are rehearsing for one of the ship's most ambitious shows. Performed above the deepest pool at sea, filled with 70 tons of water, Hero is a unique performance not found on other cruise liners, which showcases elite divers, synchronized swimmers, and martial artists. For the last 9 months, Hannah has been Hero's principal aerialist, a role which needs not only skill, but courage.
Being the aerialist in this show is so special. I'm so lucky. Painful, very painful, but it's fun. I love it.
Tightly strapped into a safety harness, connected to structural elements of the ship by 4 sets of wires, the act uses technology that moves Hannah on 4 axes. Programmed and set up to a touch of a button by a technician, Hannah is lifted across the theatre. But while suspended, she uses her body to control the flips and spins. But any slight imbalance can send her act out of control. It's a physically exhausting set that requires elite levels of fitness.
Whew. Sometimes I get a little bit lightheaded. All right.
Royal Caribbean audition 28,000 performers each year from all over the world for various performances. But because Hero is so physically demanding, only a tiny fraction of performers have what it takes to make the grade. Hannah is at the end of her 9-month contract, and replacing her is aerialist Maz. But performances in an outdoor theatre are further complicated by one big factor: the weather.
These cables bounce so much more because they're so much longer. So if there's any slack, it just bounces you because of the wind. If you've completed a trick wrong and you kind of jolt a little bit. So it's the ride of your life, really.
With the day in Roatan almost over, passengers head back to the billion-pound cruise ship. And with 30 minutes before departure, guest services manager Adrian uses a digital counting system to keep track of who has embarked and disembarked.
Hi, Nissan, this is Adrian here. Just wanted to get from a security perspective how many guests are we ashore and how many we're looking at.
And fully occupied, the ship can hold 6,680 guests. So Adrian's job is no easy feat.
334 guests ashore. All right. Okay, thanks very much. See you. Bye-bye. So as you can see, we have 300 guests still kind of off the ship. We still have another 30 minutes for sail away, but it seems like there were a few guests that kind of wanted to get the best of the island, and obviously we have more than what we normally have at this time ashore, so I'm going to be heading down to the gangway in the next 5 minutes just to count for everybody.
If passengers missed the ship, there is an assigned staff member to help, but in most cases, it will be the passenger's responsibility to catch up with the ship on its next port of call.
How are we doing?
141.
All right, so we're looking at another 130 guests left. As you can see, a lot of the guests coming. We've got 3 gangways open right now, so trying to get everybody on board as quickly as possible.
As the remaining passengers make it on board, Adrian is now waiting for one guest, holding up the departure.
Missing one, guys, one unaccounted. Can you send somebody to the room? The girlfriend is on board. Girlfriend or the wife is on board, and he's showing off.
If someone is running late, we do the best we can to try and contact them. However, if we don't know where they are or what time they're going to be back, then perhaps we would have to sail without them.
The most expensive cruise ship ever built is almost ready to depart from its first port of call. And to keep this billion-pound operation running smoothly, time is of the essence. In trying to keep to the schedule, it's been a busy day for guest services manager Adrian. However, his struggle to find one passenger may have just come to an end.
Just wait outside if the guest comes.
The scanner used to register passengers back on board has failed to count one guest to the system, causing a technical error. With hotel director Fernando meeting guests upstairs, it looks like Adrian's troubles are over.
They've just confirmed that the guest is on board. We had to physically met him upstairs, and it's all done.
With Adrian's worries over and all the passengers back on board, the crew on one of the most technically advanced bridges are ready to depart. But there appears to be one man missing.
Pilot, any word of him?
The port pilot is nowhere to be seen, meaning the ship can't set sail until he's on board.
As long as we call it before 2:15. So, okay. And we'll end up waiting for these guys.
Copy that. Don't take the gangway. We're still waiting for the pilot. I think he's just coming through the gate now.
Just in the nick of time, it looks like the port pilot is back. But it doesn't look like he's in a hurry.
We'd like to make sure we can make the next port on time. So that's very important for us to keep to the schedules.
Oh, Captain Dilbert.
Captain.
Welcome on board, sir.
Thank you.
Very nice to see you again. We are ready to depart. Start 2 thrusters.
Finally, it's anchors up for the world's largest cruise ship. Aside from the 4 bow thrusters at the front of the ship, in order to move out of port with great accuracy, the ship uses azipods. 3 250-ton electric-powered propellers that hang down from the back of the ship. Each azipod can create 20 megawatts of power, equivalent to powering a large town, meaning the ship can be maneuvered with precision out of port and into the open sea. Once at sea, the ship will take 12.5 minutes to reach its maximum cruising speed of 22 knots. While the passengers make the most of the upper decks, Second Officer Josh is giving married engineers Anna and Fraser a tour of the bridge, the beating heart of the ship, where everything from onboard safety to the steering is controlled.
I've been cruising since I was about 6 months old, so I've been on a lot of cruises. We've been on the Allure, we've been on the Harmony of the Seas, and then we just thought, why not do the biggest one in the world?
We've got a bit of a problem unique to our size, and that is you can't actually see the side of the ship as you're coming alongside. So that's why we have these cameras up here. And when we are coming port side alongside or port side off, we will use these independent levers here to maneuver the pods. And here are our bow thruster controls as well. So we will normally bring on 2 to 3 thrusters for a maneuver.
It's always nice to be able to see the new things, new technology as well.
For Second Officer Josh, it could take more than a decade before he's let loose captaining a ship as large as Symphony of the Seas.
In terms of progression, very much based on skill and ability. The next rank will be First Officer, and then up then through Chief Officer, Safety, Staff Captain, and then Captain. So hopefully in 12 to 15 years' time, you'll see me on board, but with a few more stripes on my shoulder. So yeah, that's the way it works.
Josh does get the chance to captain the ship's record-beating 370-person lifeboats.
But as you can see, you're probably driving one of the biggest lifeboats in the world.
Do you know what? I hadn't have thought it like that. I'm going to take immense pride in knowing that I get the biggest lifeboat in the world.
The next stage of their tour takes Anna and Fraser to meet the chief engineer, Stig. He's showing them around the control room, the hub where everything from the sprinkler systems to the engine's ignition is controlled. The ship is only one of 2 in the world to generate its own steam power, which they use to make hot water.
So in this corner, we typically monitor the steam system, and it's basically free energy from the exhaust gases. So we bring the energy from the exhaust gases out through the steam system, and we produce electricity with it. What you actually see on top of the funnel, at times you can see there's like a white plume, we call it. You might think that is exhaust, but it's actually steam that is coming out of. We call it plume.
The final stop on Anna and Fraser's backstage tour is to one of the ship's 2 state-of-the-art engine rooms, housing 6 engines the size of buses.
So these are the smaller engines in this engine room.
In spite of their size, the advanced technology on board means it takes just 90 seconds to power the engines up.
So these are about 14.4 megawatt engines. So in total, between all of them, there is about 130,000 horsepower shared between the 6 engines.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of power.
As night falls, the entertainment on this billion-pound vessel comes to life. And on the Royal Promenade, guests Howard and Tracy are trying out one attraction that has been designed to shake up some fun.
I think it's really cool with the robots.
The ship's very own bionic bar, which features 2 robotic bartenders serving over 30 different spirits.
Bit of tequila, that sounds good.
Taking 41,600 man-hours to develop, each robot serves 1,000 drinks per day.
Looks nice, looks fancy. We'll see how it tastes.
Outside in the Aqua Theater, crowds are gathering for tonight's performance of Hero, a show where divers and highline acts depend on perfect sea conditions, something that a billion-pound cruise ship cannot control. Unfortunately, the wind has picked up, and on the theatre balcony, hotel director Fernando is watching the conditions on the stage below very closely.
We're experiencing a little bit of movement, and the water is moving a little bit, and it's not very safe for the performers. So in situations like this, we call the captain or the staff captain, try to figure out if we can change course a little bit and see if the movement is better for the performance to be safe.
With cast members diving off a 10-meter diving platform, tightrope walkers and aerialists suspended over the audience, safety is of the utmost importance. Even the slightest of winds can throw the show off its balance. Although the captain agrees to change the ship's course, the weather goes from bad to worse.
And it is raining.
Hotel director Fernando has no choice but to postpone tonight's show. As potentially 6,680 guests retire to their rooms, the crew on board are using the opportunity for one of their major night operations, the housekeeping of the world's largest cruise ship.
This is the biggest ship in the world, and my job is very difficult, but I gotta get it done, and I gotta get it done the right way, okay?
Night maintenance manager Sylvester and his team clean all the public areas on board, including the ship's 13,347 artworks, which all need to be kept in mint condition.
It's all right.
Tonight is no ordinary night for Sylvester, because one of the ship's most precious artworks is due to be cleaned.
Actually, you guys are very lucky to see this, because once a year, actually this will happen.
Cascading from deck 16 to deck 5, this suspended glass and crystal sculpture is so complicated to clean that Sylvester flies in 2 specialists from France.
So eventually you have to bring people from shoreside to do this type of job, because it's a very dangerous and risky job.
Armed with special extendable feather dusters, Sylvester's extreme cleaners draw quite a crowd.
I finished around 6 o'clock this morning. It takes lots of time. No mistake should happen, because
The world's largest and most expensive cruise ship ever built has arrived at its last port of call. Royal Caribbean's very own private island, Perfect Day at CocoCay. And because the island is uninhabited, any cruise ship that docks here must supply their own provisions and staff for the 5 special dining areas on Perfect Day. Chef Alan is keeping a close eye on his team.
Super. It's fantastic now, all the view with all the crew coming out, part of all the cooks, all the bar servers. At the same time that they go to all the stations, we send all the pallets of the food for the bars and for all the buffets. And they have to be there already to receive, break the pallets, and make sure that the buffet is set.
As the staff march to their stations, clearance is given for the pallets to be unloaded. The world's largest cruise ship will provide the island with 60 tons of provisions. It takes a well-oiled machine to coordinate perfect day. With the pallets off, the guests on board the world's largest cruise ship can disembark for the day onto an island that lies in the heart of the Bahamas. Royal Caribbean leased the land for 100 years and spent a staggering $250 million transforming the 125 acres of white sandy beach into the ultimate chill and thrill adventure island, complete with a 120-foot water slide, the tallest in North America. While everyone may be having a perfect time on the exclusive island, on board the ship, things are a little less than perfect. On the Royal Promenade, facilities cleaning specialist Placide is faced with a lighting issue.
The light that is flickering there, it needs to be solid. So they have to replace one of the drivers. So that's what the guys up there, the team is up there inside there trying to figure out and troubleshoot and sort it out.
Symphony of the Seas has an estimated 140,000 light bulbs on board. 90% of them are LED.
Without equipment like these to get us up to the high areas, the high ceilings, light bulbs to replace, literally would be impossible. And it would be very challenging if we had to do with extremely long ladders and we worked as if we were back 2 decades ago. The guests love seeing us work. They love to see us up in the machinery. They like marvel at, okay, this is how we actually going to get to this area. But they sit and they wonder, who's going to be, how do they clean it, how do they change the lights? Who fixes, who repairs, who does what? And they get a first hand to see what we do on the largest ship in the world.
It's been a perfect day for guests and staff, but now it's all aboard as the world's largest cruise ship sets sail back home on our 140-mile journey back to the port of Miami. And with this 228,000-ton vessel consuming 2,000 litres of fuel every hour, taking care of the environment is a top priority. Deep in the bowels of the ship is a vast recycling centre.
This is where crew members are bringing their garbage every day. It doesn't close, it is open 24 hours a day.
Looked after by the ship's environmental officer, Alex, and his crew.
Protecting the environment is not a choice, it is our obligation. So it comes from each and every crew member to be aware of these things. Our goal is to preserve the environment.
The centre is also home to industrial-sized can and bottle crushers.
This is one of the examples of those crush glasses. We separate them by color, and they are being recycled by Resupply in Miami.
On an average cruise, 7,000 bottles are processed in the plant per week. The centre also handles food waste from the 30 onboard kitchens. All of it arrives here in one single pipe.
This pipe goes through here, and there is a separation of water, and the ground food is stored in the separate tank.
Once processed, the food waste is composted on shore, while the water gets recycled in the ship's massive purification plant.
The sources of water that we are processing are the black water and also gray water. Gray water comes from the showers, from the sinks, pools, and galleys, and other non-oily water sources. Black water, of course, from the urinals and medical facilities and toilets.
Using ultraviolet light, the machine neutralizes bacteria in the wastewater to be used for operational purposes.
This equipment is very, very important because it makes our water clean.
As the ship makes its way across the Gulf of Mexico back towards Miami, 700 of the ship's 6,300 passengers are making the most of their last chance to watch Hero, which was postponed previously due to bad weather. Tonight's conditions are much calmer on the open-air Aqua Theater. And having completed her 9-month contract, aerialist Hannah has the opportunity to watch the show before she leaves the ship in Miami. The show opens with a striking bow staff routine.
When he picks up that bow staff, it's like an extension of him, and it's so powerful, and it's such an amazing start to this show to set the tone of the show. Like, it's up there right from the start.
Next are the show's daring high wire performers, whose act takes place 30 meters above the audience.
This is such a special moment in the show. We're in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship, and we've got two guys walking a high line. Like, it's just too hard to believe sometimes. It's so cool to watch the audience's reaction. Everyone's just pointing and in shock. Really awesome, really special.
Last but not least is Hannah's replacement, aerialist Maz, who's taking her first flight in front of a live audience. Maz's performance is based around a series of complicated moves that culminates with the most difficult move to master.
The bullet is one of the hardest tricks to conquer. It is so difficult. It takes time, it takes practice. Here we go. Yes, Maz.
The 7-day journey aboard the world's largest and most expensive cruise ship ever built is over. Arriving into the port of Miami during the early hours of the morning, the ship's crew is about to start the busiest day of its weekly routine, turnaround day.
Within 5 hours, we'll have all the guests off the ship. The last guest will leave the ship around 10 o'clock in the morning, and by 10:30, the first guest is coming back on board, the first of another 6,000 guests.
We have to start preparing the ship and make sure that everything is organized.
And the man in charge of the operation to disembark the 6,680 guests currently on board the Symphony is Guest Departure Officer Rizzle.
Today is the busiest day. I think it's the busiest day for everybody, and everything is about me. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Are you guys ready to start the departure, right? But you guys are early. Do you guys, everybody, had a chance to have breakfast? We're going to start at 7 o'clock.
And whilst Rizzle organises his passengers on the ship's promenade, 5 decks below, another big operational challenge lies ahead for facilities cleaning specialist Placide, ensuring 16,000 pieces of luggage get off the world's largest cruise ship.
Morning, ladies and gents.
And with a heavy task ahead, it means his team needs to be physically prepared.
Today is the day that most, injuries can happen. Let's lead off with our stretching. All right, everyone. Thank you. All right, thank you, guys.
With Placide's team all warmed up and ready to go, on the promenade, Rizzle is awaiting the all-important go-ahead.
Cleared for departure now. We can start departure. Ship is cleared.
Copy that. Departure team, departure team. Departure is about to start. I repeat, departure is about to start. Good.
With the all-clear given, Rizzle and his team must usher guests off the world's largest cruise ship from various access points located around the vessel.
Now it's good. 7 o'clock, sharp.
Time is of the essence, and keeping count gives an indicator of how well debarkation is going.
In 23 minutes, we disembark 1,000 guests. That's a very good number.
That's the equivalent of 5.5 Boeing 747s. And whilst there's still 5,000 passengers to leave, there's a hold-up with Placide and his team. A special ramp to take off luggage has an issue being connected.
This is unusual. Maybe they have a new team member because they rotate the guys at times, and this is why it's probably taken this long to have it set up.
With the luggage all ready to leave this billion-pound vessel, this delay could have a massive impact on today's colossal operation.
We're a bit behind, but the team will make up for it. Ready to rock and roll?
With the ramp finally in place, Placide and his team can finally get the 16,000 pieces of luggage off the world's largest cruise ship. And with new guests arriving shortly, Guest Departure Officer Resupply is making his final push to get the last remaining passengers back onto land.
Just please make the line inside of the dining room. I need your help here outside of the dining room. Just join these gentlemen. Thank you. Just please join the line inside of the dining room, please. Inside of the dining room. Adentro del comedor. I'm a traffic cop, the one who said like, come on, keep going, this way, guys. Ready to leave the ship? Just please make the line inside of the
When guests leave, they should be leaving with the feeling that they want to experience more. It's like watching a good movie. You watch a good movie and then you just want to watch it again later on because you want to see all the little bits that you have missed. So when people leave, we want them to have this chance again and to have this experience again. Zero count. We finished with all the departure. Yeah, job is done. All the guests are outside, and we are ready to start the next voyage. Now it's good. I can take my break.
With all passengers successfully disembarked, Hotel Director Fernando and his 2,300-strong crew can now quickly restock, clean, and prepare this billion-pound cruise ship for its next 7-day journey across the Caribbean.